What's up, guys? It's Ditch. Welcome to the DTE podcast. Change is a choice. This is episode 10. All right, please like, subscribe, comment, and or share the podcast. It's the best way to support. Now let's get into this episode. Today I'm going to be talking about two things in specific. The first is going to be really how I've developed this relationship with my intimate self and what that process has been like for me. And now that I have developed this relationship with my intimate self, how I'm learning to show up as my intimate self in the ways that I want and need to show up for him. So I'm excited to really delve into that with you guys and share my experience with you guys, and hopefully you guys can benefit and gain some inspiration, motivation, knowledge from what I share with you through my own anecdotal experience. And the second thing I wanted to touch on a little bit, expand more on, that I talked about last week, is the music industry. So we're going to go into a little bit more about what it means to really be an independent artist, producer, and what the music industry, how the music industry has laid out this quote unquote game to really benefit fake streams, benefit labels, and it's become a business. Obviously it's a business, but it's become so poisoned by it being a business that there's so many people that will be doing things that have no morals, no values, no ethics, and all they care about is making money. They don't care about actually making quality art, most of these people. So we're going to delve into that a little bit as well. So first off, I wanted to share my experience with you guys that I've been going through the last 3 years, but also, really in specific, the last year, where I've had to get to know my intimate self, or at least I've chosen to put myself in a situation to get to know my intimate self. And first off, let's just start with what that means. What is my intimate self? What is your intimate self? To me, our intimate self is that part of ourself that requires love, requires attention, requires care, requires family and connection, right? That intimate part of ourself that the intimate part of ourself is that part of ourself that gets vulnerable, has emotions, is hurt, it may experience pain, may experience joy, may experience laughter, may experience sadness, all of these different emotions. All of these different things make up, to me, what our intimate self is. And for me, I realized that I had no relationship with my intimate self. I had no idea who he was, and furthermore, because a lot of the traumas that I've been through, sexual traumas in specific, that is, it was not just that I had no relationship with that part of myself. I was terrified of that part of myself. I thought my intimate self was a criminal, that I needed to lock away and make sure he never got out. And so, when you go through sexual trauma, a lot of times that can be the reaction, is to become deathly. A phobia can be created, essentially can form, develop, of your own intimate self. But then the complex problem that presents is that now your intimate self, which is baked into the human experience, right? Of every animal even, right? Now that part of yourself, your intimate self, is not being seen, not being acknowledged, and it's not being tended to. And when that happens, then your intimate self usually acts out and bursts itself out in ways that actually aren't actually ways that you want and need your intimate self to be acknowledged and seen. But because it's not being seen at all, it's desperate to be seen in any way. So that's where, with children, that's the whole premise of acting out, is children don't know how to express themselves and communicate their emotions. Obviously, they're children. And so they act out, right? So that they can essentially create this communication that, not even just create this communication, it's more so they're like I said, their children are not great at communicating, and so they act out because they'd rather get something than nothing. It's just as basic as that, right? Instinctually. So with myself, I had no relationship with my intimate self. And, 3 years ago, I had been in a relationship with a woman who I really, really was in love with, still love to this day. I will always have love for her. And, I wanted to take it to the next step. And she would just didn't want to take it to the next step. She wasn't ready, didn't feel right, whatever the case was, right? Everybody has their own reasons. And so, but when we broke up, that really broke me, like in a way that a relationship had never really broke me before. And I had to make this oath to myself, this commitment to myself to I'll always remember the day. I can still envision myself making the decision that I don't know how I'm going to do. I look at myself in the mirror. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm going to figure this out because I have to be good with me. I have to figure out who I am, right? And that started 3 years ago, 2020, really almost 4 years ago. And that started my journey of self-exploration, self-growth. And a big piece of that for myself in my own journey was learning first to not have the phobia of my intimate self and this terrifying fear of my intimate self, but secondly then to integrate that intimate self into my whole being, into my whole psyche in a Freudian sense. And that's kind of where I'm at. That's where I'm at now, where my intimate self is integrated. And now that I know myself, I love myself, I respect myself, all that stuff has to come first. You have to learn how to love yourself, respect yourself, be alone. I used to hate being alone. Now I love being alone, right? Because I've learned how to love myself. I know myself so well that I enjoy being with me, right? And it's like, now it's fun. It's this exploration of myself. I get to discover new things about myself. And so in specific with my intimate self, now I'm in this phase of just like, it's integrated into me and I get to explore and figure out, okay, how do I want to channel that energy of my intimate self? And that's intentional manifestation. Alchemy. That's what alchemy is. So not in the woo-woo sense of the term, but in the actual sense of the term, right? That's what alchemy is. And so, learning to really channel my intimate self so that he can have his wants and needs met the way that he needs them met has been game changer for me. And this is something that I learned. It just the switch just flipped for me this over the past weekend, the past week or whatever. So, and I've learned, I've been doing a lot of deep therapy. I go to therapy every week, and I had this week was a really deep week for me, and moment of like epiphany and clarity, and like, wow, I really realized that now that I see my intimate self for who he is, I now know how he wants and needs to be seen, and therefore I can give it to him. I can give him those wants and needs. I can be there for my intimate self, and I can also open up my intimate self to the world and share it with the world and connect with other people, because I know who I am, and nothing's going to change that. Nobody's going to ever change that with me. I'm grounded in that. I'm grounded in who I am. And by being so anchored in who I am, I can take that with me wherever I go into the world, and I can show up as that person, that version of me. I can allow my intimate self to be vulnerable. And that's a big piece, So I've spent the last 3 years in specific on purpose, consciously single, on my own since my last relationship that I referenced earlier, learning how to at first just be alone and learn to love myself and respect myself. And now here we are 3 to 4 years later, and I'm just now finally learning how to open up to the world as this new version of myself that I've discovered. And it's really who I am. It's not really the new version of myself. It is, but it's, the evolution of me. And I really know myself in such a powerful way, in such a deep, authentic, and intimate way that now I'm ready to share that with the world, with my community, with my fans, with, my family, with my friends, and with a woman. At the end of the day, that's, for me, the goal is to have a wife, to have kids, have a family. And but in order to do that, you have to know your intimate self and what he wants and needs in order to be able to give that to him. Most people, they don't want to go on, they're not able to, or they don't want to get to know themselves because it's difficult. It's really difficult. It's probably the hardest thing you'll have to do if you ever choose to do it psychologically, because it's humbling, man. That's a humbling experience to to look yourself in the mirror and start asking yourself questions as if you're a stranger, because you learn a lot. And that's been what my journey has been for the past 3, 4 years. So, I share that little story with y'all because, um, again, opening up as my intimate self and into the world and being vulnerable is part of my healing process too. And, that's part of the 12 steps. That's why the 12th step is all about giving back and all about helping other people in the steps get to the get to the point where you're at in your recovery and your healing, because it's such a blessing to be there, and it helps heal you because it reminds you of where you came from and how far you've come. So it's really a blessing to have overcome that intense fear and paralyzing paranoia that I had of opening up to the world like this and being myself and really going all in on me. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you out there who's listening to this podcast, who listens to my music, who follows my social media, comes to my shows, anything, anybody out there who supports and really sees me for who I am, because that's what it's about. Y'all see me for who I am, and that means the world to me. That means more than the world to me. Words can't even express it. So, um, I hope that can spark some inspiration and some get some gears going in some of your guys' heads by hearing my testimony and my anecdotal experience with that. And I'm excited to share more with you guys about that as the podcast and come along and the weeks go along, and I continue to learn more about myself. And it's just a blessing to be able to have a platform to be able to do that and to be able to share that energy with the world and share that light and positivity. Because like Logic says, it's all about peace, love, and positivity. So, all right, now going into the second topic of today's podcast, the music industry. And in specific, let's talk a little bit more about, like I said, faking streams, what it means to be independent, all that. Today, well, not today, I guess, but, well, yeah, today, I guess. Yeah. Today, sorry, I got mixed up in my mind there. I had a brain fart for a second. Today, I watched the new episode that came out, the new Flagrant episode by Andrew Schultz. I'm a big fan of his comedy, but I'm also a big fan of his podcast, Flagrant, with Akash Singh. My guy Russ was on there. I love Russ. If anybody out there, if you guys have been following me long enough, you guys know Russ is my guy. He's giving away the free, Jesus, I can't speak today, the free blueprint to the music industry and to life. All you guys got to do is study it. Everything that guy puts out, interviews, music, to me, I see it, other than the fact that I just enjoy his music a lot, I see it as curriculum. I'm studying, I'm learning from him because he's giving away the free game, and I'm willing to do the work, and I'm willing to put the time in with myself, to get to know myself. So Russ just dropped this interview. I really should say Andrew Schultz just dropped this interview with Russ, and I'm about halfway into it, and it's incredible. It's incredible. I'm blessed to have a father who's in the music industry, who's a music executive in the business. So I was born in the game. I came up in the game, and I got to learn from the inside, right? Most people, they have to learn from the outside in, right? So a lot of the stuff he's saying, I obviously, I know a lot of these things, and I resonate and I understand completely what he's saying. But for a majority of people watching that podcast, it's going to be completely brand new news. And so I encourage every artist and producer out there to go watch the new podcast, the new Flagrant podcast that Schultz just dropped with Russ, because there's a lot of music industry game in there. There's a lot of labels and big time artists who are faking their streams because it's a pump and dump. It's a pump and dump because the streams are fake, but the money's real. So if a label invests $50,000 a month per se, just pulling numbers out of my ass, into a song, promoting a song, and that song generates $250,000, it's like, they're going to make money. That's an investment for them. It's all numbers. So, Russ really breaks it down in a way that in a way that I can't, because he obviously has way more firsthand experience with this stuff. But that's why I'm putting y'all onto it, because, I study everything that Russ puts out, and he's giving out a lot of free music industry game there. And he also talks a lot about what it means to be independent. A lot of people think, well, I'm independent if, I have this like distribution deal, or I'm independent if, I whatever, a lot of people, like, to me, and it sounds like to Russ, a lot of people consider to us, being independent is like, I put out all my shit. I'm my label. I'm my own fucking everything. I do everything on my own. And so I don't need a label, right? A lot of these artists need a label in order for their business to function, in order for their music brand to continue to operate. And so to me, and it sounds like to Russ, that's not being independent. What being independent means is you own all your masters. You are your label. You're your own publisher. You're writing your songs. You're recording your songs. You're singing your songs. You're mixing your stuff. You're mastering your stuff. Like, this is stuff that I do. I do all of these things, right? So, and obviously, you have to have a good production team, that kind of stuff. But it's like, most artists they don't have a team, they don't have an operation, they don't got a brand going on, because they don't understand the business like that. They don't know it. They just don't know it like that, And so for an artist, they're like, oh, I'm going to get this advance from a record label. I'm going to get this $1 million record label deal advance. But it's like, that's just an advance alone. And you got to make that back. So whatever music you make, like, and that advance too, by the way, is taxable. So it's like, cut that in half. Then you got to pay your engineers. You got to pay the studio. You got to pay your manager. You got to pay your publisher. You got to pay your label. Like, there's all these people you got to start paying. And then once you start doing the math, it's like you barely got any money left to actually do what you need to do for the music. And if you take all if you take all that, like, responsibility and put it into your own hands, and you become the CEO of everything of your brand, I don't have to rely on a label. I don't have to rely on a publisher. I don't got to go clear stuff with people, because my team and I make everything originally. So I just make a song and I upload it. And it's like, I own all my masters. Shout out to United Masters, by the way, and shout out to Steve Stout, who's the CEO of United Masters. In my opinion, the best distribution service out there right now. Everybody, producer, artist, whatever, you should go try it out. I think it's just incredible. But that's what Russ really, really expands on a lot in this podcast. And like I said, I'm only halfway through. It's a 4-hour podcast, so I'm only halfway through. But, I really encourage everybody to go study this. If you're really trying to figure out how to make a name for yourself, how to make a brand for yourself, how to start your own movement, right? Don't fall into this trap that you got to become you got to be on the top hits, and you got to be number one, and you got to do this amount of streams, and you got to get signed to this label. Because a lot of this shit's faked anyways. And a lot of that stuff's just for show and for fame and for clout and for whatever, And for these labels, they don't care about you. They care about making money off of you. So if you're making tons of money, if you're Drake and you're making tons of money, they're not going to bother you, and they'll give you the kind of record deal they just gave him, which I think is like close to $500 million, because they're going to make way more than that off of Drake. And Drake's going to be happy, and they're going to be happy. But it's like, those are the outlier situations. And even then, it's like, Drake could probably do everything the label's doing for him on his own anyways. So it's just, ownership is really important. And in my opinion, ownership in any art form is probably like the utmost priority. If you don't own your art, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? A lot of people a lot of people end up in situations where they contributed to something that's massively successful, but they don't own their art. They don't own their percentage. They don't own their royalties, their masters. They don't have any of that in place. They don't have any of that in place, and then they get screwed. And then that's it. Like, you can't go back. So I highly encourage everybody to go listen to Russ's interview on Andrew Schultz's Flagrant podcast. It's incredible. Like I said, if anybody who's been following me for a minute knows, I'm a big Russ guy. I call it the Russ model. And it applies to music too. It's like, he dropped a song a week for 2 years. If I don't know how I do these things, but he dropped a song a week for 2 years, and that really was what changed the game for him. Obviously, you have to make great music. Your music has to be fire in the first place, but seeing that he released 11 albums, had 1,000 fans, the most streamed song on each album with the first song, it's like, all right, nobody cares. You're not anybody yet, and people want to just listen to one song. They got short attention spans. They want to be hooked in real quick. So he just was like, screw it. I'll just drop a song every single week until you guys until one of them blows up, one of them goes viral, and that's what happened. And then all the other songs, like dominoes, went up too. And he's really shown me the importance of my catalog. The more music I put out, the better. And it's all about doing it for me too. At the end of the day, like, progress is the best game to be in. So it's like every day I make a song, you know, it's just about being in the moment, making the best song that I can make in that moment, to me, something that I love and can enjoy to the highest form in that moment. And once all that's done, that energy, that moment has been encapsulated, and it's like a time machine, you know, it's like a time capsule, and it's preserved, and I just have to share it with the world. So, you know, you don't have to, like, artists out there be releasing 3-4 songs a year. It's like, you guys be making way more music than that. I know. Release it every week or every other week at least, you know, because it's just part of who you are. So why wouldn't you put it out there? And, you know, I love Russ's analogy that he compares it to, which is baseball. It's like, if you're a 300 hitter in baseball, you're a Hall of Famer. That's 3 hits out of 10. You know what I mean? So, like, it's like you miss 7 times. And if you don't show up to the plate to take at bats, the more at bats you take, the higher likelihood you're going to have a higher percentage. So it's the same with the music. It's like every time you put a song out, it's like we're getting up to bat, and it only increases our likelihood and chances of one of those songs being a home run, right? And then you gain some momentum, and you reach escape velocity, and you have leverage, and it's like the brand moves itself. You know, the music's moving itself. And if you own all your stuff and you're truly independent in the true sense of the term in the music industry, you can create a lot of the momentum and movement, and definitely gross the income that on your own, without these labels, without the charts, without the this, the that, like selling your soul stuff. And so I just encourage everybody out there, focus on the art, focus on independence, focus on ownership, and focus on the game of progress with yourself as an artist, you know, and as a musician. Just try to make every song be better than the last song you made, and then share it with the world, and connect with the people who connect to that song, and build your community, and then just keep it moving. And it'll grow like wildfire. You'd be surprised how quickly that happens. So Russ is the example. You know, he's the exhibit A, right? So we're very lucky to have someone like Russ who's done it, not only done it, but now gives all the game away to us for free if we're willing to listen, study, apply the knowledge, and put it into action and get it done for ourselves as well. So those are the 2 things I wanted to hit on today: my intimate self and the music industry in specific. That Russ interview on Andrew Schultz's Flagrant podcast. So, as always, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that you guys got something from the podcast. I hope that you guys get something from all my posts on social media and all my songs that I put out there. That's my purpose. That's what I believe my calling is. That's what I believe I know that I know that I know I was put on this planet to do, which is to help people heal through my music, through my sound, and through my messages. You know, I have a gift for words and melody. So, thank you guys so much for supporting that and allowing me to inspire you guys to choose change in your life. That's why this podcast is called Change is a Choice, because it really is a choice, and you have to choose it for yourself. Nobody can tell you you have to change, and nobody can force you to change. Nobody can push you into changing because, you know, they want to make you do it. You got to hit your own version of rock bottom and then choose that you're going to change. That's why this podcast is called Change is a Choice. So thank you guys so much. I love y'all. Stay strong. As always, great things always come.